Emma arrived at the hotel just before midnight, her shoes soaked from the rain and her suitcase wheels rattling across the cracked pavement outside. The building stood tall but weary, its faded sign flickering weakly against the storm. Inside, the lobby was dim, lit by a single yellow lamp that cast long shadows on the walls. Behind the desk sat an older man with deep wrinkles carved into his face, his eyes tired but sharp. He slid an old brass key across the counter toward her. "Top floor, last room at the end of the corridor," he said in a hushed tone, hesitating before leaning closer. "But people rarely stay the night there." Emma forced a small laugh, dismissing his strange warning as an attempt at local folklore, the kind of story staff tell to spook tourists. She thanked him politely, grabbed her key, and climbed the creaking staircase. The carpet in the hallway smelled of dampness and old smoke. Light bulbs flickered overhead, buzzing faintly as if annoyed to still be alive. When she reached the final door, she noticed that the air felt heavier, thicker, as if the building itself was holding its breath. Unlocking the door, she stepped inside. The room looked ordinary at first glance. A neatly made bed, a small desk, peeling wallpaper, and a single mirror standing tall in the corner. But it was the photographs that unsettled her most. Dozens of old, framed black and white portraits hung on the walls. Men, women, children, faces from another era, all positioned in stiff poses, all staring directly toward the door. Emma shook her head, setting her bag down with a sigh. "It's just decoration," she whispered to herself, though her voice wavered slightly. As the hours ticked by, Emma grew restless. The storm outside had not let up, rain striking the window like endless fingers tapping to be let in. She tried reading on her phone, but the signal was weak, the screen glitching with static every few minutes. Around midnight, she turned off the light and lay down, hoping exhaustion would drag her into sleep. But the noises began almost immediately. At first, soft creaks, like the wood settling, then the sound of footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate. She held her breath, waiting for them to pass, but the footsteps stopped directly outside her door. Silence followed. Heart pounding, Emma slipped out of bed and approached the door. She pressed her ear against the wood, straining to hear. Nothing. Slowly, she turned the lock and pulled the door open. The corridor stretched before her, long and empty. Every door stood closed except hers, which glowed faintly with the weak yellow light spilling from her lamp. Emma shivered and shut the door again. When she turned back toward the bed, something felt wrong. The photographs. She swore they had shifted. Faces that had once stared toward the door now seemed to be staring at her, their dark eyes sharper, more present. She grabbed her phone, pointing the camera at the wall, but the screen froze, flickered, then went black entirely. She tapped the power button repeatedly, but the device was dead. Then came the whisper, soft at first, like the brush of wind against her ear. "Leave, now." Emma spun around, her voice trembling. "Who's there?" No answer came, only the whisper again, louder this time, circling the room, bouncing off the walls. "Leave, now." Her pulse raced. She tried to calm herself, crawling back into bed, clutching the blanket like a shield. Minutes felt like hours. Then 3 sharp knocks echoed against the door. Knock, knock, knock. She froze. The sound reverberated through her chest, heavy and deliberate. Against her better judgment, she approached the door and opened it just a crack. The hallway stood empty, but this time something was different. Every door along the corridor stood wide open, each revealing only darkness inside. Cold air drifted out from them like invisible smoke. Emma's room behind her glowed faintly, the only island of light. And then she saw them, figures emerging from the dark rooms, one by one, silent, pale, their movements stiff. She recognized their faces immediately. They were the people from the photographs. They stood in the hallway, unmoving, eyes fixed on her. Dozens of them, watching. Emma's breath came in shallow gasps. She slammed her door shut and locked it, pressing her back against the wood. The mirror across the room caught her eye. Her reflection was no longer following her. It stood still, smiling faintly while Emma shook in terror. Then the reflection moved on its own, raising a hand to the glass. The whisper returned, deep and resonant now, vibrating through the air. "You are the last. This is our room now." Emma staggered backward, shaking her head. "No, this isn't real." But her reflection's grin widened, its eyes dark and hollow. Slowly, it pressed against the glass, and the mirror rippled like water. A pale hand slid through, fingers long and skeletal, reaching toward her. Emma screamed and grabbed the nearest chair, hurling it at the mirror. The glass cracked but did not shatter. Instead, the reflection laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in her ears, though the room itself remained silent. The figures from the hallway pounded on the door now, steady, inhuman fists shaking the wood. The light bulb above flickered violently, buzzing louder and louder until it burst, plunging everything into darkness. Emma's last sight was her reflection stepping fully out of the mirror, eyes locked on hers, whispering, "You belong to us now." Morning came. The receptionist climbed the stairs, whistling softly, though his tune faltered when he reached the top floor. The last room's door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open. The room was neat. The bed was made. No suitcase, no sign of a guest. Only silence. But on the wall, among the dozens of old photographs, there was a new face, staring out with lifeless eyes. Emma. Her image now hung forever among the others, her gaze fixed on the door, waiting for the next visitor. And in the lingering silence, words seemed to whisper through the empty corridor. Some rooms are never empty.